sober for, it'll be 30 years. Food, alcohol, sugar, drugs, bad relate, whatever it is, it's like you kind of get it together in one, and then it becomes a full-time job. But it changed my life. It was the best thing I ever did. Enabled me to have a solid marriage and kids and a career. I like to tell parents that honestly, all you can do is try to keep them alive. And
it's up to them.
And yes, no one can get sober for their jobs, for their wife, for their kids. They can't do it for any of that. They can only do it when they decide they're done. When the light goes on, absolutely, there's definitely a great life beyond it, for sure. My big worry when I got sober was I wasn't gonna have fun anymore. Like, I was young, I was 26. And I was like, I'm not giving up my fun. And I could never imagine, well, so when I get married, I'm not gonna have a drink. So when I have a kid, I'm not gonna have a whiskey. Guess what? Yes, I didn't have any of that, and it's awful.
In your late 20s, you stopped drinking.
Stopped drinking, yeah.
Very difficult?
No, beautiful. Unbelievable.
Better.
Oh, are you kidding? I would never be sitting here with you. No way, no chance.
Because?
Because I wouldn't have been able to have access to myself or other people, or even been able to take in other people if I hadn't changed my life. No way. And I never would have been able to have relationships that I do. I never would have been able to take care of my father the way I did when he was sick. So many things.
Joined now by Dr. Jen Ashton. And Doc, first question, how do you know if someone has a problem that requires total sobriety, and what kind of treatments are out there?
You know, I think it's really important when we talk about alcohol, it's not all shades of gray here. There is a significant and serious life-threatening problem, alcohol use disorder, and there are criteria for that diagnosis. So if you take a look at this list, if someone has, this is just a partial list, by the way, 2 or more of these, drinking more than intended, you're unable to cut down or stop consuming alcohol, alcohol is making you sick on a regular basis, you're becoming involved in dangerous situations, driving while intoxicated, or obviously if you're having memory blackouts, and the list, by the way, that's only part of it. If you meet criteria, that is a life-threatening situation. You need to seek professional help.
I think there's a degree of luck and intellect involved in giving up things that hurt you. The drug and alcohol thing, it seems to me, comes down to this. Drugs and these things are wonderful. They're wonderful when you try them first. They're not around for all these millennia for no reason. First time, mostly pleasure, very little pain, maybe a hangover. And as you increase and keep using whatever it is, the pleasure part decreases and the pain part, the price you pay, increases until the balance is completely the other way and it's almost all pain and there's hardly any pleasure. At that point, you would hope, then the intellect says, oh, this doesn't work anymore. I'm going to die and I'll do something. But you need people around you who can help you, and you need something to live for. You have to have something to look forward to bring you out of it. You know,
as an alcoholic, I talk about, some warning signs, like DUIs in a cul-de-sac, things like that. The idea of, have you been through it, to talk about it and see, this is what you go through. Heart surgery, alcoholism. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open.
So you were dry for 20 years?
Yes.
Why did you fall off?
I was in a little town in Alaska. It wasn't the end of the world, but you can see it from there. And it was like all of a sudden I thought I could drink. And within a week it was like, gone, And now, I realize I can't. So that was the gift, The idea is you got to surrender. You got to just say, I can't do it. Because, I went to rehab with a lot of doctors and psychiatrists. And the more intelligent you think you are, the harder it is to let go. You think, I've got a solution. I'll just drink a little bit. It's like saying, I'll just partially circumcise myself. I'll be fine. And then you have to go, nope, you lose. You can't do it. You need help. And at that point, that's the beginning.
This award to me for a reason. Because when I couldn't get sober, he told me not to give up hope, and he urged me to find my faith. Didn't have to be his or anyone else's as long as it was rooted in forgiveness. And I couldn't get hired, so he cast me in the lead of a movie that was actually developed for him, and he kept a roof over my head, and he kept food on the table. And most importantly, he said that if I accepted responsibility for my wrongdoings, and if I embraced that part of my soul that was ugly, hugging the cactus, he calls it, he said that if I hugged the cactus long enough, I'd become a man of some humility, and that my life would take on a new meaning. And I did, and it worked. All he asked in return was that someday I help the next guy in some small way. It's reasonable to assume that at the time he didn't imagine the next guy would be him. Or that someday was tonight. So anyway, on this special occasion, and in light of the recent holidays, including Columbus Day, I humbly ask that you join me, unless you are completely without sin, in which case you picked the wrong industry, in forgiving my friend his trespasses, offering him the same clean slate you have me, and allowing him to continue his great and ongoing contribution to our collective art without shame. He's hugged the cactus long enough.
You've been sober now, how many years?
7.
7 years. What turned you around? What was bottom for you, or was there a bottom?
Bottom for me was being with Ryan White the week he died in Indianapolis, seeing his family so dignified, forgiving people that had been horrible to them, losing a child and having so much dignity, whereas I, in my life, would complain about everything. And I just knew at that point that my life was out of whack. I knew beforehand, but that was the point I really realized it. And months after that, I got sober and clean. That was a real big turning point for me.
I read in an article, because you never know what you read, but that you saw Elvis, and that was also a turning point, and that you didn't want...
Well, Elvis, when I saw him in Washington, bless his heart, and I'm a huge Elvis fan, it was so sad because he turned into this big man with no eyes, it's sunken in the back of his head, and it was pathetic. And in the end, there are pictures of me when I look at them and think, oh my God, you know, you turned into Elvis. You just shut your door and you gained weight and you did this and you did that and you didn't care how you were. And it's very easy to do that.
But when you saw him, you thought you didn't want to end up like that.
I knew he would be dead within a year if he carried on like that. And he was.
Really? And he was.
Yeah.
And he was.
I knew I had a problem, and the hardest thing for me was I thought I could solve everything myself. You know, I can do this. I'm intelligent.
Right.
I'm wealthy. I'm rich. I'm successful. Why can't I do this? I can do this. I couldn't. And for 16 years, I couldn't say I need help. You know, that those 3 words which will save your life. I need help. And as soon as I said that, I was away and haven't looked back since.
Haven't looked back.
No. Just say that if you're in pain and you're afraid to reach out because you think people will think you're weak, or you feel ashamed of asking for help, just swallow your pride. Your pride will kill you. Just ask for help, and people will be there to give it to you.
I think you just saved somebody's life tonight.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
The things I was putting in my body, you know, it just, my tolerance got so high, and it got to the point where I couldn't even count how many pills or anything I was taking. I had overdosed in 2007, pretty much almost died. I pulled through and went home and relapsed again like less than a month later. I scared myself and just was like, yo, I need help. It's my fault.
The rapper's friend Elton John was one of the first people he called for help. Elton himself just celebrated 29 years of